Welcome back to the One Room at a Time podcast. I'm your host, Atticus LeBlanc, CEO of PadSplit, and we are back for part two of our conversation with Kurt Carlton, the co-founder and president of New Western. Kurt, thanks again for being here, and just want to jump right back in to continue the conversation a little around policy, trends, and then talk about the future of housing industry. But first and foremost, let's touch on the partnership between PadSplit and New Western. And just curious to know what made you realize that that co-living was a natural next step for investors in your community.
I mean, it makes sense for two reasons. Obviously, we've fallen into this mission on affordable homes. We feel like we can, it's what we do. It's what gets us out of bed in the morning, we've had a business for a long time, and now we've got something behind it, right? That we haven't always had. We're trying to fix that challenge, and it just fits so nicely in there. If we can add density without the neighborhood really noticing, we're not dropping a fourplex in the middle of the street. We're just reconfiguring a home a little bit, and it just people need to know about it. The other side too is it's such an interesting strategy for a real estate investor, where the old common traditional real estate investor, buy house, rent it out. Now, if you've got a higher priced home, you can still really make it work. You can increase your ROI on the lower priced homes as well. And it's a nice financial incentive for a real estate investor that's different to the traditional rental.
Yeah, I think about it as just like an arrow in the quiver, tool in the toolkit, what have you. But I mean, it's another thing you can say instead of just fix and flip, fix and rent. BRRRR strategy is not a term that I used in 2008, but apparently something I've been doing for a long time. But co-living specifically, I mean, why do you think that stands out? Is it just a question of return on investment when deals don't work for a lot of those other strategies?
Well, I think, news travels so fast these days, strategies, information, and there's just so many different strategies now. And that's one that, maybe it was common in some of the higher density markets, LA, everybody has a roommate. If you have a normal job in Los Angeles, you have to, you can't find anywhere to live. In all the other markets, it's a great sort of rental strategy to outperform the guy next to you. And in a competitive environment, and affordable housing is still a competitive environment, regardless of what you hear on the news about inventory and things like that. Everybody just is desperate for affordable housing. If you can pay a little bit more than the guy next to you, because you have a better strategy, then you win.
So talking about just the better strategies and innovations generally, we both are running technology companies effectively. Curious to know from your perspective, what are the innovations, whether it's new sources of data, other innovations in product design. I don't want to use the 4-letter word AI, but even regulation. Like, what do you think is going to most impact housing affordability on a go forward basis based on what you're seeing right now?
We're spending a lot of time reframing the real estate investor and the flipper into more of getting people to understand what they actually do. They're a positive force for housing. They're actually providing housing. And they're doing a better job of that today than builders. So we're spending a lot of time, and I think that also drives people into the space. So a year ago, we had 250,000 investors on our marketplace. Now we have 300,000 in a year. So a lot of people are coming into this space, and I think they're being drawn into this vacuum by the opportunity. There's 15 million vacant homes in the US, and everybody wants an affordable one. And the only major source of affordable single family houses, freestanding homes, is through the existing stock, right? Mm-hmm. That continuum of vacant homes. And that's hard to do on a national level. It takes a local real estate investor to do that. So I think that's really the greatest impact. I mean, I know that's the greatest impact. We're putting out a research paper in February that compares that to new construction, but Real estate investors today are the largest major source.
Yeah.
And the government federal government should be focused on this, but they don't understand. They don't understand what happens. We're traveling up there quite a bit to DC to educate, because the desire is there, but just the knowledge and the understanding isn't.
It's so interesting. I mean, think about as we talk about innovations, and it really is just reframing the mindset around and doing the math, right? I mean, I post on LinkedIn occasionally under hashtag It's Just Math, but to your point, like if there are 15 million vacant homes and you have a quote unquote shortage of between 2 and 7 million, well, why don't you just go activate and occupy the old ones that are vacant? And then the secondary part of that is I have yet to see any technology anywhere that can come close to construction costs low enough to compete with purchasing an existing property and activating an existing property. And like it's almost that it's not a question of innovation so much as it is resetting how you actually view the problem and understanding what it is that you actually want to solve. If you want to create more affordability, then you need to activate more of the existing housing infrastructure and housing stock that's already there.
What we're doing with our technology, and it's difficult because what do they say when a market or an industry is well understood, it's no longer emerging. And we are far from understood. Nobody gets this space. There's a huge language barrier between really all segments of real estate and what we're doing, to the point where we don't need, if someone has more than a year of experience in real estate, we don't hire them. But the difficult part is no one builds enterprise level software for us because we'd be the only customer in our space because we're the only ones doing it at scale. We're the marketplace. So we have to build everything ourselves. And we have a lot of challenges that I'm sure lots of competitors, would want to have, right? We have challenges because of our scale. And the big thing that we have here is we're trying to build a bigger easy button for that local real estate investor, because those local real estate investors are not sophisticated. And we've got to make this easy. They've got to understand it. They've got to come into the space. And since we're providing a value add property and they're doing all the construction, they're managing the contractors, and this is very difficult. The more tools and resources we can provide them to do a better job at that improves their customer experience where they come back. About 40% of our customers are return buyers now. There's a lot of people that come into the space and they try it once and they might make money, but they don't, it's just too difficult.
Yeah.
Too much of a challenge. So we're just constantly, we did a big partnership with Home Depot. They average around $6,000, $6,100 in savings if they go through our program per rehab for the materials, which is huge, right? It's an extra $6,000 in their pocket. There's a lot of challenges on the labor that we can try to organize. The real estate investors make their money by being really good at organizing subcontractors. And these are not the type of contractors that generally service homeowners, right?
Yes, I'm aware.
Price staff. There's a lot of management.
Yeah. One of my key advantages in 2008 was the fact that I spoke Spanish, and could pay every Friday.
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult to manage all that. A lot of these trades have left too, so it's very difficult, but that's the space.
You could be the smartest person on the planet, but if you are trying to build your own house and you have no resources or background in the industry, it's going to be really difficult for you to do. But one of the things that I tell our team all the time is that the people who are closest to the problems are generally the best equipped to solve them. And it's our job as a marketplace to provide the resources, information, incentives so that they can go solve those problems themselves. And it sounds like you guys are doing very much the same thing. And I've watched this play out. It's funny. It's almost like a mirror image to some degree of what we see, that they're unsophisticated in that they don't have a team of data analysts feeding them all of the information or creating fancy spreadsheets or presentations and doing massive amounts of market research. So the more that marketplaces or other technology companies can provide those to them, you can take someone who's naturally pretty smart but give them these resources and create something that's incredibly powerful across hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands of individuals. Circling back to just like some of the blockers and innovations, we've talked a lot about policy at federal level, at state levels, at local levels. It's one of the topics that I always love to dive into. But who do you think is doing it right, based in of all the markets that you're looking at? Which cities or states would you say, for any policymaker who's listening to this, go look at what?
Texas.
Texas. Statewide?
Yes, I think so.
And be specific there. Like what has Texas done that other states have missed?
Governor Abbott passed a statewide bill, and it's been a little while. I think this was maybe 24 months ago. If you don't hit certain timelines on permitting, you're allowed to go hire an independent inspector. Now, again, that's going to have to catch up and things. It's just because it works on paper doesn't mean it works, practicality. And there's just things like that are just, let's get out of the way, and this may be controversial, but, you used to have to be licensed as a plumber, and that department just became unfunded. See, everything's still there, but there's no enforcement, right? That's different than an electrician, right? And that could have some good and bad, but we're certainly getting out of the way. And you see it in the new construction too. I mean, Dallas is leading. Now there's lots of other fundamental problems in new construction, but it certainly isn't the government in Texas.
Yeah.
Treatment of real estate investors, track the real estate commission, took the time to understand, like, what is real estate wholesaling? How should it be regulated? I think they've got some good policy there. And we're involved whenever any of these states sort of are putting a bill out there. One of the things we do, which would be helpful to have some support with other people in the space. Everybody's just
hint.
Yeah. But we spend a lot of money really tracking all the regulatory side, going and having these conversations like we had in North Carolina. That was more.
Well, seriously, keep us in the loop. I mean, it's funny. So we didn't talk before this, for anyone who's listening, but Texas also just passed what they called the frat house bill, courtesy of some Texas A&M students who really brought the issue to light around family size, family definition, how many people are allowed to live together. So obviously that was something that we were big supporters of. But if you were to ask me the same question, I have always said Houston, in that Houston, without the same constraints that of zoning that most cities have, has been able to have supply meet demand across decades. And as you compare rates of rental growth, even though Houston has been rapidly growing as one of the top 5 populous cities in the U.S., has the lowest rate of rental increases of basically any city in America. And same thing with home price appreciation, et cetera. So it is more affordable on an apples to apples basis to live in Houston than it is just about anywhere else, largely because they've allowed that market to function. And so, yeah,
people can't even imagine what that looks like when you tell them about that.
So
when you tell them that Houston has no zoning, like, they can't even imagine what that could even look like.
Yeah.
But it works. It works well.
Yeah. I specifically remember I was speaking with a Houston city official a couple of years ago, because they have a lodging facility ordinance that specifically calls out safety standards for shared homes. And we were actually trying to get them to increase their standards. And the city official looks at me and he says, yeah, but if we increase our standards, that means that some of those places that are currently operating and providing affordable housing wouldn't be able to continue to operate. And I was like, wow. The response I never would have expected to get from a city official that, oh yeah, if we regulate more, then fewer people are going to enter the space. Because across the country, I continue to see it time and time again that the way to quote unquote save the consumer is through more regulation, which limits supply, which limits the number of entrants who want to go into the business. And to your point about LA, like it's so difficult for investors to operate in LA that it's not that PadSplit doesn't have a lot of investors who live in LA. They do. And you know where they invest? In Texas and in Florida and in Georgia, because they've made it so difficult and onerous to be able to invest in their own backyards where they would love to. They would otherwise love to invest there. So yeah, I think that's such an important point. But I know we're coming up on time here, so I want to run into our rapid fire Q&A here, Kurt. What's a daily habit that you have that you recommend for others that kind of keeps you sane?
Exercise. I don't know what I would do without it now.
Yeah,
Got to every day. Just get your brain working, move.
right there with you.
That's my daily habit. It's Christmas party season now, so it's been a rough week for me. So every Christmas party, but yeah. So
I can definitely relate. What's a book that's changed your life, or what are you currently reading now?
Okay. I read a lot. And I read a lot of really I like a lot of history. And, I recommend some books for people when they join New Western, like Never Split the Difference and Atomic Habits, these books you can read in a weekend and all that. But I remember my business partner, Stuart, I'd never forget, somebody was getting, going into management, having to learn some things. And they were talking about all these books. And he said, just stop reading business books and start reading books about war. It's just whole history side. The recent book I just finished was Hero with a Thousand Faces, which was really interesting. Joseph Campbell. So I highly recommend it. It's a little heavy, it's kind of like a textbook at points, but it's so fascinating.
Well, I just finished my last one, so I will put Hero of a Thousand Faces.
Yes.
Okay. It's on the list. And then last but not least, what is the most surprising lesson you have learned through entrepreneurship over the last 20 years?
Everything's an 80-20, right? So everything from in every department, like you can do anything, but not everything. So I'm always looking for the 80-20, meaning like we're going to get 80% of our results from 20% of the things that we're going to do. So we're going to have to say no all the time. And it's difficult. And as your company grows, you've got 1,000 people saying, oh, why don't they do this? How come they're not fixing this? And the reality is, we have years where we grow 100%. Like we doubled our footprint in 2021. And, we'll have these big, huge growth where all you can do is grow. And then you got to rebuild the foundation and you got to pick what problems to fix. And then you get back in it. Like the end of the next year, we'll probably get back into hypergrowth. The economy, helps us. But like you just have to live in this world where there's a lot of dumpster fires around you and people are very vocal and loud about fixing them, but you can't do everything and you got to pick your problems and you got to get super focused. And it's generally not on the things that make the most money, but on the things that are the foundational things to get you to the next step that costs a lot of money. And, we're a marketplace. We've got 300,000 investors on the platform now. We're interacting with every day. We're not trying to sell them, we have a few partnerships. PadSplit's one of them. And the reason, because it just is so complementary to the outcome for the investor. We're not trying to bombard. We're focusing on these long-term initiatives. One of the big AI things we're focused on right now is communicating better, more concisely with our investors so they get less emails from us. We're trying to send them less information. We think that's going to be a big thing moving forward. with AI. And if you have to, we're moving everybody to a digital environment so we can understand them better. And then that one way we communicate with them, it's more meaningful. It's the property that they actually want, So we're doing things like that don't necessarily generate revenue, but really separate us and allow us to be sustainable much farther down the road. Because when we get back into massive expansion, all you can do is expand. You can't fix things, so you got to fix it all right now.
Less is more. Less is more. Yeah. Love it. Well, Kurt, thanks a lot. This has been a fun session. I really appreciate you joining us and for all the work that you do at New Western and for the partnership with PadSplit. We're really excited and have seen our growth increase and the number of units that we've been able to put on the platform, the number of residents we've been able to serve through affordable housing, just through the inventory that you guys have been able to make available. So we know it's working, and we certainly appreciate your efforts to help us and help address one of the biggest challenges of our time, lack of affordable and accessible housing. For our listeners, you can learn more at newwestern.com or follow Kurt on LinkedIn. And if you're an investor thinking about co-living, visit padsplit.com/newwestern to learn about how we're working together to expand housing options nationwide. Be sure to subscribe to the One Room at a Time podcast wherever you listen or watch, and leave us a review. Tell us what you think and who we should talk to next. Kurt, thanks again. Really appreciate your time and your partnership.
Glad we finally got time to catch up. So appreciate you having me. Thank you.